In this week's video, we'll be going over making the best out of the situation you're in when photographing, as things may not go as well planned as you initially thought, which in my case at least is more often than not. Just think about it. We do research in the cities and locations we travel to and want to get that perfect shot with the perfect scenario, like we imagine it in our heads, only to have reality hit us with something different. Or maybe it's the other way around and you aren't prepared and you just have to make the best out of the situation. Whatever it is, I'm sure we've all been there before. Some maybe more than others. In this video, I want to go over how I personally got over some of those complicated situations during my travels. The first situation I'll be talking about is my sunrise shoot at the top of the Namsan Park in Seoul. Because I was still pretty jet lagged at this point in my trip, I decided that instead of wasting my time in bed, I could be doing something more productive. So I decided super last minute to just get up and go for a sunrise shoot. I didn't really get to prepare for anything, but since I was staying pretty close to the Namsan Park, I just decided to try to hike up to the top and try to get some sunrise shots of the cityscapes as well as Namsan Tower itself. Well, that didn't really go how I thought it'd go in my head. The first obstacle that hit me was the fact that the observation deck, one of the main places I wanted to go to for photos of the cityscape, doesn't open until 10 a.m. So that entire spot was basically impossible to get any sunrise photos. The second obstacle was the fact that the actual sunrise itself actually wasn't visible during that time of the year at top of the Namsan Park. But as the sun started rising throughout golden hour and eventually into daytime and peeking over the trees, the most beautiful light just started shining through into the park, and I was able to get some pictures I really liked. Especially this picture of the Namsan Tower logo. As for these pictures of the Namsan Tower, I especially wanted something similar to the photos I got from last year when I went on an overcast day. Even though I didn't get what I had planned, I really enjoyed my early morning hike as well as the pictures I was able to get from that morning. I guess the message I have from this situation is, even if the scene isn't what you expect, just try to wait and see what the scene develops into, because you might regret what you'll miss if you leave too soon. The second situation is actually at the same location, the top of the Namsan Park, but at a different day, at a different time during my trip. During this particular day, I was walking around Hongdae, just doing some street photography, and I noticed that the sky was pretty cloudy, but not overcast. So I was wondering if there was going to be a nice sunset at the time. Because there are many live streams of the Han River, which is a river right in the middle of Seoul, it's a pretty good way to see how nice the sky is whenever and wherever you are. So I decided to just check that out and see how it looked. The conditions in the video hinted that it might be a nice sunset that day. The only problem is, once again, because everything was so last minute, I didn't exactly have a plan set because I had only just been doing street photography that day. So in the moment, I just decided to quickly make my way back to my Airbnb, get all the gear I needed, and once again hike my way up to the top of the Namsan Park. By the time I made my way all the way to the top, I was pretty sweaty and tired, since I really rushed up there to try and get there in time to assess the scene. I knew it was going to be crowded because Namsan Park is very popular among tourists as well as locals, but I didn't expect it to be that crowded. The observation deck was pretty much lined up with a bunch of people to get views of the cityscape. To top that off, it was a Sunday, so definitely much more busy than it probably would have been on a weekday. The issue with this scenario came from all the people at the scene. I was wondering how I can get clean shots of the cityscape, which I was luckily able to get eventually. But then I started thinking, instead of fighting the scene, why not also try to include some of the people in my shots? And that's what I started doing. And while I enjoyed the cityscape shots that I got, I really enjoyed getting the shots of the people enjoying the sunset. For me, it adds some kind of story to the photo. How many people were at the scene, what they were doing, etc. It definitely let me be more creative with how I compose my photos as well, with all the different type of elements each person at the scene brought, with how unique everyone is, such as their outfit, who they were with, what they were doing, and so on. So with this situation, my message is this: don't try to fight your scene, adjust to your scene, whether that's with lighting, colors, weather, or in my case, crowds. The third and final situation I want to talk about is my time in the Roppongi Observatory deck. This is a pretty popular spot in Tokyo to get great views and pictures of the Tokyo Tower. And I went on a random weekday during the afternoon, so it didn't really get too crowded until past sunset. So I didn't really have an issue trying to get a spot to get a shot of the Tokyo Tower. The issue arose from my lack of accessories. Before I packed my trip, I didn't bring my lens skirt because it's just so damn big. I mean, look at this. So I fully went into the trip knowing I wouldn't have one, and if I ever needed one, I would just work with what I have. So going into the Roppongi Observatory deck, I'd really get to test whether I need one or not. During the day, because of the way the lighting is inside the observatory deck, I had no problems whatsoever getting clean shots of the Tokyo Tower. But that wasn't the conditions I wanted to take of the Tokyo Tower. I knew I wanted golden hour, blue hour, and night shots of the Tokyo Tower. It was a cloudy day, so there was no golden hour unfortunately, but there was blue hour and of course night. And that's when the issue started really coming up. Because I had no lens skirt, reflections would come into my shot from every type of angle. And reflections is definitely something I do not want in my shots of the Tokyo Tower. So I did all I could to get rid of them. I used my hands to cover parts of the hood of my lens to try and get them out, or move my camera in all types of ways with the Tokyo Tower to see how that would affect reflections in my shot. Basically, I literally tried everything. And if I couldn't get a specific reflection spot out, I knew I'd be able to at least fix it up in post. especially if the reflection spot wasn't, too big or somewhere important like right on the Tokyo Tower itself. Eventually, after the shoot, I was able to get some shots I really liked without the reflections. I also tried my hand at getting other people in my shots with the Tokyo Tower as well, like I did at Namsan Park. In these pictures, you can see the reflections from the lights inside the observatory deck, but those weren't cityscape shots, so I didn't really mind those reflections. The message I want to relay from the situation is, if you're in a stump with a lack of accessories, just try to be creative with the tools you have on you. Even if it's not a long-term solution, you might be able to salvage a lost shoot. When we're out taking photos in the open real world, where basically nothing except our bodies and our cameras are in our control, it can lead us into tough and unforgiving situations, which can be especially frustrating if you don't have a lot of time in a location due to your travel schedule. The reality is, shoots can easily just fall through. And even if you have no plan at all, conditions during your travels might not be optimal for how you like to do photography. In order to leave with some pictures you like, adaptation is important, which is where getting creative with your photography, being open-minded, and being patient ends up being really rewarding. Normally, it's these type of shoots that end up being some of the greatest lessons that's helped me with my photography. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed and learned some helpful tips from these stories. If you have some lessons you've learned throughout your time doing photography, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Later.